Captain Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth spin slowly below him. The blue marble looked peaceful from here, but Jake knew better. He had grown up on that world of storms and earthquakes, where animals hunted each other, and humans had to fight just to survive another day. A soft chime broke his thoughts. His communication device was blinking with an urgent message. Jake pushed off the wall and drifted toward the console. The message header made him stop breathing for a moment. It was from outside the solar system. "Commander, you need to see this right away," called Lieutenant Sam Parker from the communications center. Jake kicked off the wall and glided through the corridor toward the main station. The communications center buzzed with activity. Officers stood around the main screen, their faces showing confusion and excitement. On the screen, strange symbols shifted and changed, then slowly transformed into English words. "How are we getting this signal?" Jake asked. "It came through the quantum relay network," Sam replied. "Someone out there has technology we have never seen before." The message is translating itself as we watch. Jake read the words appearing on the screen. The language was formal and flowery, unlike anything humans normally used. It spoke of peace and harmony, of joining together in friendship across the stars. The message invited humanity to something called the Great Peace Summit on a world called Kepler 442b. "This is real?" Jake asked quietly. "As real as it gets, sir. We have confirmed the signal came from deep space. Someone wants to meet us." Jake felt his heart beating faster. First contact with alien life. Every human had dreamed of this moment for centuries. But as he read more of the message, something felt strange. The aliens used words like harmonious gathering and peaceful communion. They wrote about resolving differences through gentle understanding and loving cooperation. "Get me Admiral Carter," Jake ordered. "She needs to know about this immediately." Within an hour, Admiral Lisa Carter arrived at Luna Station from Earth. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent her whole career preparing for this moment, but the reality felt different than all the training. "Show me everything," she said as soon as she entered the communications center. Jake played back the entire message. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, a group of 12 different species who had joined together in peace. They had been watching Earth for many years, they said, and now believed humans were ready to join their family of worlds. "They make it sound so simple," Lisa said, frowning at the screen. "Just show up at their meeting and become part of their club." "What worries you, Admiral?" Jake asked. "Look at how they write," Lisa pointed to the screen. "Everything is about peace and love and harmony. They use words like gentle beings and kind hearts. Either they are very different from us, or this is some kind of test." Over the next few days, more messages arrived from the Galactic Council. Each one was filled with the same flowery language about peace and cooperation. The aliens sent information about their worlds, their cultures, and always their beliefs. Everything they shared painted a picture of perfect harmony. Lisa assembled her team for the mission. Jake would command the ship and lead the diplomatic mission. Dr. Amy Sullivan, the best linguist on Earth, would handle communication and translation. Ben Rodriguez, who had studied every human culture, would serve as cultural attaché. Commander Tony Walsh, a security expert, would keep everyone safe. This could change everything for humanity, Lisa told her team as they met in the briefing room. We could learn technologies that solve all our problems. We could explore the galaxy and meet incredible new species. What if they are not as peaceful as they claim? Tony asked. He was a big man with scars on his hands from years of military service. What if this is a trap? That is why you are coming with us, Lisa replied. But try to remember, Tony, we are going as diplomats. not soldiers. These beings claim to have never known war. We need to show them we can be peaceful too. Amy spread out her translation notes on the table. I have been studying their language patterns, she said. They use very indirect communication. Nothing is ever stated directly. Everything is suggested through careful word choices. What does that mean for us? Jake asked. It means we need to be very careful how we speak. Their culture seems to value politeness above all else. Direct statements might offend them. Ben added his own concerns. I have been reading about their customs. They seem to have rituals for everything. Greeting rituals, eating rituals, meeting rituals. We will need to learn all of these if we want to make a good impression. The team spent weeks preparing. They studied the alien languages, practiced diplomatic speeches, and learned about galactic customs. The more they learned, the more different the aliens seemed from humans. The aliens lived on worlds with perfect weather and gentle animals. They had never known hunger or war or natural disasters. Their biggest problems seemed to be scheduling conflicts and hurt feelings. To them, the universe was a kind and loving place. How did they survive evolution? Tony wondered aloud during one of their study sessions. Every world we know of has dangers. How did they become intelligent without facing challenges? Maybe their worlds are just that different from Earth, Amy suggested. Maybe the universe has many safe places, and we just got unlucky. Jake was not so sure. He had read the reports from Earth scientists about how life developed. Competition and survival challenges drove evolution forward. Without those pressures, how had these aliens become advanced enough to travel between stars? Finally, the day came to leave for the Peace Summit. The human ship Harmony was loaded with gifts and diplomatic supplies. The crew had practiced their greeting ceremonies and memorized the proper forms of address for each alien species. As the ship prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Jake stood on the bridge looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12 alien species were waiting to meet humanity for the first time. They expected to find gentle beings who shared their love of peace and harmony. Jake wondered what they would think when they met real humans. Humans who had survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. Humans who had fought wars and hunted animals and conquered every environment on their harsh world. Humans who had turned their violent history into sports and games and movies because they could not completely forget their nature. Beginning jump sequence, announced the navigator. Estimated travel time to Kepler 442b is 6 days. The stars outside shifted and stretched as the ship entered hyperspace. Jake felt the familiar sensation in his stomach as gravity shifted around them. Soon they would arrive at the Peace Summit, and humanity would take its first steps into the galactic community. He hoped they would not accidentally terrify their new neighbors in the process. During the journey, the team continued their preparations. They practiced the alien greeting ceremonies until they could perform them perfectly. They rehearsed their speeches about human culture and values. They prepared gifts that showed the best of human creativity and achievement. But as they traveled through space toward their destination, none of them realized how differently the aliens would interpret everything they said and did. None of them knew that their very existence would challenge everything the Galactic Council believed about life in the universe. The peaceful aliens were about to meet a species that had evolved to survive anything the universe could throw at them. And that meeting would change both sides forever. The Harmony dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442b, and Jake Morrison felt his breath catch in his throat. The planet below them glowed like a jewel in space. Soft blue oceans reflected the light of twin suns, while white clouds drifted over continents covered in silver forests. It was the most beautiful world he had ever seen. "Look at that," Amy Sullivan whispered as she joined him at the observation window. No storms, no hurricanes, no ice caps. It looked so peaceful. Too peaceful, Tony Walsh muttered from behind them. Where are the weather patterns? Where are the mountain ranges? This place looks like someone designed it in a computer. Ben Rodriguez checked his instruments. The atmospheric readings are perfect. Temperature is constant across the entire planet. No seasonal changes, no extreme weather zones. It is like a garden world. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Earth had taught humans to survive in deserts and Arctic ice, in mountains and deep oceans. This perfect world looked alien in ways that scared him more than any monster could. Incoming transmission, called the communications officer. They are sending us landing coordinates. The voice that came through the speakers was soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Welcome, new friends from the distant world. We await your arrival with joy in our hearts. Please follow the guidance lights to the crystal spire of harmony. As the harmony descended through the atmosphere, Jake saw the landing site. A massive crystal structure rose from a field of silver grass. The building was completely transparent, catching and reflecting light in patterns that shifted like water. Other ships were parked nearby, but they looked more like art sculptures than spacecraft. Those are their ships? Tony asked, staring at the graceful vessels. They look like they are made of glass and flowers. Remember what we practiced, Amy said nervously. Gentle greetings, soft voices, no sudden movements. We want to make a good first impression. The human landing party walked down the ramp of their ship. Jake led the way, wearing his best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric had gold trim and rank insignia that showed his position as mission commander. Behind him, Amy wore her formal academic robes. Ben carried a case of gifts from Earth, and Tony walked in his dress military uniform. None of them noticed how their clothes looked to alien eyes. The uniforms had structure and purpose, with clean lines and symbols of rank. To beings who wore flowing robes of light fabric, the human clothes looked like battle armor. A group of aliens waited to greet them near the crystal spire. Jake had studied their pictures, but seeing them in person was different. The Etherians looked like tall humans made of shifting light, their forms constantly changing color. The Zephyrians resembled giant butterflies with jeweled wings and large compound eyes. The Neptunians moved in hoversuits filled with water, their tentacles waving gently through the liquid. Amy stepped forward and attempted her first greeting in the Etherian language. She had practiced the words many times, but her human tongue struggled with the flowing sounds. What she meant to say was, "We come in friendship and peace." What actually came out sounded like, "We come seeking conquest and submission." The Etherian representative flickered from blue to red for a moment before politely responding. "Welcome, brave warriors from the far realm. We hope your journey was not too filled with battles." Amy blinked in confusion. "I am sorry, I think. I made a mistake in translation." "No mistake, honored one," the Etherian replied. "Your words were clear. We understand that your people have traveled far to reach us." Behind Amy, Jake noticed other aliens whispering to each other. Their voices were too soft to understand, but their body language suggested concern. The Zephyrian representative kept backing away slowly, its wings trembling. Ben stepped forward with his case of gifts. "We have brought presents from our world to share with you," he said in careful, practiced words. "These represent the best of human culture and creativity." He opened the case and pulled out the first gift. It was a painting of a famous battle, seen from human mythology, showing warriors fighting a great dragon. To Ben, it represented human courage and determination. To the aliens, it looked like a detailed instruction manual for violence. The Neptunian representative's tentacles curled up in distress. "Such energetic artwork," it said through its translation device. "Your people must face many dangerous creatures." "Oh, This is just a story, Ben said quickly. Humans love stories about heroes overcoming challenges. He pulled out the next gift, a piece of classical music recorded on a crystal drive. This is one of our greatest musical compositions, he explained as he activated the player. The music that filled the air was Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. To human ears, it was beautiful and inspiring. But to aliens who had only known gentle, harmonious sounds, the dramatic crescendos and powerful beats sounded like war, drums calling soldiers to battle. Several aliens stepped backward as the music played. The Etherian representative's light form flickered rapidly, a sign of deep distress in their species. Very. Intense, the Zephyrian said when the music finally ended. Your people must use such sounds to prepare for combat. No, Ben said, desperately. It is just for enjoyment. We listen to it for pleasure. This made things worse. The idea that humans found such aggressive sounds pleasurable confirmed the aliens' growing fears about their new visitors. Amy tried to help by engaging the Zephyrian in conversation about Earth. Our world is very diverse, she said proudly. We have survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and many other challenges. The Zephyrian's compound eyes went wide with horror. Your people lived through world-ending disasters? How did you survive such terrible times? Humans are very adaptable, Amy replied. We learn to work together and overcome any obstacle. We have conquered every environment on our planet, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. The word conquered sent ripples of fear through the assembled aliens. In their peaceful languages, conquest meant domination and destruction. They began to see humans not as fellow beings seeking friendship, but as unstoppable survivors who had defeated their own world. Tony noticed the aliens backing away and tried to lighten the mood. Do not worry, he said with a friendly smile. Humans are very good at keeping the peace. We have many techniques for maintaining order and solving problems. You have techniques? Asked the Neptunian nervously. Oh, yes, Tony replied enthusiastically. We have crowd control methods, containment procedures, threat assessment protocols, and neutralization strategies. We can handle any situation that gets out of control. The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. Tony's words sounded like a military briefing about occupation tactics. The fact that he spoke about these things so casually suggested that humans regularly dealt with violent situations. As the group moved toward the crystal spire, more misunderstandings piled up. Jake tried to compliment the beautiful building by saying humans were impressed by the strategic positioning and defensive advantages of the location. Amy mentioned that the crystal structure reminded her of fortified positions, she had studied in human history. The aliens began sending urgent signals to each other. Their new guests spoke constantly about conquest, survival, battles, and military strategies. Even their compliments sounded like tactical assessments. Inside the crystal spire, the formal reception was beginning to fall apart. Other alien species had arrived for the peace summit, and word was spreading quickly about the frightening new species. The humans seemed to view everything in terms of conflict and domination. Jake noticed the change in atmosphere, but did not understand the cause. Is something wrong? He asked the Etherian representative. Have we violated some custom? Not at all, honored warrior, the Etherian replied carefully. We are simply adjusting to your unique perspective on the universe. Amy tried one more time to explain human culture. Humans believe in working together to solve problems, she said. We have a saying, united we stand, divided we fall. To her human ears, it sounded like a statement about cooperation and unity. To the aliens, it sounded like a military motto about strength through organized force. As the first day of the peace summit ended, the aliens gathered in emergency session while the humans rested in their assigned quarters. The beings who had expected to welcome gentle new friends now faced what appeared to be a species of organized warriors who had survived multiple apocalypses and spoke casually about conquest and control. The Galactic Council had invited humanity to join their peaceful alliance. Instead, they seemed to have invited apex predators to a gathering of prey animals, and the humans had no idea what they had done wrong. The second day of the Peace Summit began with what the aliens called the Morning Harmony Circle. Jake Morrison and his team sat with the 12 council members in a ring of floating crystal chairs. Soft music played from hidden speakers, while gentle lights shifted colors around them. Scholar Prime Zyth, the lead Zephyrian representative, spread his jeweled wings and spoke in his musical voice. We gather today to share our current challenge with our new friends from Earth. Perhaps fresh eyes can see solutions we have missed. Jake leaned forward with interest. This was why they had come. Humans loved solving problems, and here was a chance to prove their value to the galactic community. For 50 of your Earth years, Scholar Prime Zyth continued, 2 of our member species have disagreed about mining rights in the Vega asteroid field. The Crystalline Collective wishes to harvest rare crystals, while the gas giant nomads need the metal ores. Both have valid claims, but they cannot agree on sharing. Amy Sullivan whispered to Jake, "This sounds like a simple territorial dispute. We have handled thousands of these on Earth." The Etherian representative, Luminous Speaker Vel, added more details. Both sides have presented their needs through proper channels. They have participated in meditation circles and sharing ceremonies. Yet after all this time, they remain at an impasse. Ben Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. Have they tried establishing clear boundaries? You could divide the asteroid field into zones based on resource type. The aliens looked at each other nervously. The word boundaries carried frightening implications for beings who had never known territorial conflicts. Boundaries? Scholar Prime Zyth asked carefully. You mean dividing space into separate areas? Exactly, Jake said, warming to the topic. Set up clear territorial markers so each group knows where they can operate. Then establish patrol schedules to ensure everyone follows the agreements. The Neptunian representative's tentacles curled tightly inside its water suit. Patrol schedules? You mean ... enforcement activities? Tony Walsh stepped in to help explain. Basic peacekeeping protocols, he said confidently. You need monitoring systems to track compliance, response teams to handle violations, and deterrent measures to prevent future conflicts. The aliens began shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Tony's casual discussion of enforcement and deterrence sounded like plans for military occupation. Perhaps, Luminous Speaker Vel said carefully, you could explain these enforcement mechanisms? Simple crowd control techniques, Tony replied. You establish checkpoints at key locations, maintain surveillance networks, and deploy rapid response units when problems arise. If someone violates the agreement, you implement containment procedures and neutralize the threat. Amy watched the aliens' faces and realized something was wrong. Their translucent features had gone pale, and several were making distressed sounds. I think there might be some confusion, she said quickly. When we say enforcement, we mean peaceful methods to ensure agreements are followed. How can enforcement be peaceful? Asked the Crystalline Collective representative, its voice tinkling. Like broken glass. Enforcement implies consequences for those who resist. Jake tried to clarify. On Earth, we have many peaceful enforcement methods. Economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, resource restrictions. Sometimes you need to apply pressure to make people cooperate. The word pressure sent another wave of fear through the assembled aliens. In their experience, pressure meant coercion, and coercion was the opposite of harmony. Ben pulled out his datapad to show examples of human diplomacy. Look at these successful territorial agreements from Earth history, he said, displaying a map. The Treaty of Westphalia established national boundaries and ended decades of conflict. The Law of the Sea Convention divided ocean resources fairly among nations. But as Ben scrolled through his examples, the aliens grew more horrified. Every human diplomatic success seemed to follow wars, invasions, or other violent conflicts. The humans spoke about peace treaties as if warfare was a normal step in the negotiation process. These conflicts you mention, Scholar Prime Zyth said with trembling wings, how many beings died in them? Ben checked his notes. 30 years? War killed about 8 million people before the Treaty of Westphalia. But that was long ago. Modern humans are much better at preventing such losses. The number hit the aliens like a physical blow. 8 million deaths was more than most of their species had ever recorded in their entire histories. The fact that humans considered this an acceptable cost for diplomatic agreements was beyond their understanding. Amy realized they were losing their audience and tried a different approach. Human psychology might help here, she said gently. We understand competitive behavior because we evolved in competitive environments. Both sides in your dispute are acting from natural survival instincts. Survival instincts? Luminous speaker. Vel asked. Competition for limited resources, Amy explained. On Earth, this is completely normal. Groups compete for territory, food, mates, and status. It is built into our biology. The aliens stared at her in horror. Amy was describing their peaceful mining dispute as if it were a life-or-death struggle between dangerous predators. But surely, the Neptunian said desperately, your people have moved beyond such primitive behaviors? Oh no, Amy replied cheerfully. Competition is still central to human society. We have sports leagues, business competition, political contests, academic rivalries. We even turn competition into entertainment. She pulled up video clips on her datapad. Here is a football game from last season. 22 players compete for control of territory, trying to advance into the opponent's zone while the other team tries to stop them by any means necessary. The aliens watched in shock as armored humans collided with tremendous force, fighting over small amounts of ground. The crowd cheered every violent collision, and commentators discussed battle, plans, and crushing defeats. This is your entertainment? Scholar Prime Zyth whispered. One of our most popular sports, Amy said proudly. Millions of humans watch these games. We have professional leagues, college competitions, and amateur clubs. Almost every human participates in some form of competitive activity. Tony decided to share some practical examples. Competition makes us stronger, he said. Military training, police work, emergency response. We use competitive exercises to prepare for real situations. He showed them videos of human training. Exercises. Soldiers running obstacle courses, police practicing crowd control, rescue teams responding to disaster scenarios. To Tony, these demonstrated human dedication to protecting others. To the aliens, they looked like training for conquest and domination. You prepare for disasters? The crystalline representative asked. Of course, Tony replied. Earth is a dangerous place. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, fires, volcanic eruptions, terrorist attacks, industrial accidents. We have to be ready for anything. The list of potential disasters grew longer as Tony warmed to his subject. He described emergency protocols for chemical spills, radiation leaks, building collapses, pandemic outbreaks, and dozens of other scenarios that could threaten human lives. How do you sleep at night? The Neptunian asked in amazement. We adapt, Jake said simply. Humans are very good at adapting to dangerous situations. We learn from every disaster and become better prepared for the next one. Ben tried to bring the discussion back to the mining dispute. The point is, humans understand conflict resolution because we deal with conflicts all the time. Your two species just need proper management structures. He outlined a detailed plan for resolving the asteroid dispute. Territorial divisions, resource allocation schedules, monitoring systems, enforcement protocols, and dispute resolution mechanisms. Every suggestion was based on successful human examples. But to the aliens, Ben's plan sounded like a military occupation disguised as diplomacy. The humans spoke casually about enforcement, monitoring, and control, as if these were normal parts of peaceful cooperation. As the session ended, the council members excused themselves for private consultation. They left the humans sitting in the crystal chamber, puzzled by the sudden change in atmosphere. "I think that went well," Jake said to his team. "We gave them practical solutions to their problem." "Did you see how they reacted?" Amy asked worriedly. "They looked terrified when we talked about enforcement and boundaries." "Maybe they have never dealt with territorial disputes before," Tony suggested. "These beings seem to live in a very sheltered universe." Ben shook his head. "Something is wrong here. The more we try to help, the more frightened they become. It is like they have never heard of competition or conflict resolution." None of them realized that in the aliens' minds, the humans had just proposed turning a minor resource disagreement into a militarized zone with permanent occupation forces. The peaceful beings who had invited humanity to join their community now believed they had welcomed a species of territorial predators who viewed every problem as a potential battlefield. The misunderstandings were growing deeper, and both sides were running out of ways to bridge the gap between their very different worlds. News of the terrifying humans spread through the galactic communication network faster than light itself. Within hours of the second day's discussions, emergency messages flashed between worlds across 12 star systems. On the crystalline world of Zarian Prime, the collective's council chamber filled with panicked chiming sounds as representatives shared what they had learned. The new species survived 8 million deaths in a single conflict. One member reported its crystal body flashing red with alarm. They consider this acceptable losses for territorial negotiations. Meanwhile, in the floating cities of Neptunes, tears, the gas giant nomads gathered in their thought-sharing pools. Tentacles writhed with distress as they processed the information. They speak of enforcement and monitoring as if watching others is natural behavior, one elder communicated. Through bioelectric pulses, what manner of beings have we encountered? Back on Kepler 442b, Scholar Prime Zyth worked frantically in his research chamber, analyzing every piece of data about the humans. His compound eyes tracked multiple screens, showing medical scans, behavioral observations, and cultural analysis. What he discovered made his wings tremble with fear. "Emergency council session," he broadcast to all representatives. "I have completed preliminary analysis of the human delegation. The results are disturbing." The council members gathered in a secure section of the crystal spire. The usual gentle lighting had been dimmed, and the harmonious background music was turned off. This was the first emergency session in over 200 years. Scholar Prime Zyth activated his holographic display. "Observe the human physical structure," he said, highlighting Jake Morrison's medical scan. "Note the forward-facing eyes, designed for tracking prey. Dense bone structure capable of withstanding severe impacts. Powerful jaw muscles for tearing flesh." The assembled aliens leaned back in horror as more details appeared on the screen. "Their cardiovascular system is extraordinarily robust," Zyth continued. "Heart rate increases rapidly under stress, pumping blood to major muscle groups. This is consistent with pursuit predator physiology. They are designed to chase other creatures until their prey collapses from exhaustion." Luminous speaker Vel flickered with distress. "Are you certain of this analysis?" "The evidence is overwhelming," Zyth replied. Furthermore, their cultural materials confirm predatory behavior. They consume other living creatures for sustenance. They engage in territorial competitions for entertainment. They maintain organized groups trained for violence. The Neptunian representative's tentacles curled into tight spirals. What should we do? They are already here, in our most sacred space. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmony in orbit, Admiral Lisa Carter was receiving increasingly worried reports from the surface. Her communication officer handed her another message from Jake's team. "The aliens seem afraid of us," the message read. "Every time we try to help or explain human culture, they become more nervous. We may need backup diplomatic support." Lisa frowned as she read the report. "Get me Dr. Sullivan on a secure channel," she ordered. Amy's face appeared on the screen a few minutes later. She looked tired and confused. "Admiral, something is very wrong here. These beings act like they have never seen predators before." "Explain," Lisa said. "They are terrified of our medical scans. They keep asking about our hunting adaptations and predatory features. When I tried to explain human evolution, they looked at me like I was describing monsters." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "What exactly did you tell them about human evolution?" "The truth," Amy replied. "How we developed as persistence hunters on the African savanna. How we tracked prey across vast distances, working in coordinated groups to exhaust large animals. How we became the most successful predators on our planet." "Oh no," Lisa whispered. "Amy, to beings who evolved without predators, that sounds like a description of the perfect killing machine." Back on the surface, Ben Rodriguez was trying a new approach to cultural exchange. He had prepared a selection of human entertainment to show the peaceful nature of modern humanity. Surely movies and games would demonstrate that humans had moved beyond their primitive past. "This is one of our most popular films," he told the assembled council members, activating his portable display. "It shows the heroic journey of a young person overcoming challenges." The movie he chose was a classic adventure film about a team of explorers racing to find ancient treasure before their rivals. To Ben, it represented human creativity and determination. To the aliens, it looked like documentation of territorial conflicts and resource competition. The aliens watched in growing horror as humans used weapons, vehicles, and complex strategies to outmaneuver their opponents. Explosions filled the screen as the heroes fought their way through dangerous environments, battling both human enemies and natural obstacles. "This is entertainment?" Scholar Primezythe asked weakly. "Very popular entertainment," Ben confirmed. "Humans love stories about overcoming impossible odds and defeating enemies." He switched to another selection. "Here is an example of our competitive games." The screen showed a video game where players controlled armies, built bases, and conquered territories through strategic warfare. "Millions of humans play games like this," Ben explained proudly. "They develop tactical thinking and problem-solving skills." The aliens stared at the screen as digital armies clashed in realistic combat. Resources were harvested, enemies were eliminated, and territory was claimed through organized violence. The crystalline representative's voice chimed with panic. "You train your young for warfare through simulation." "Not warfare," Ben said quickly. "Strategy games. They teach planning and resource management." But the aliens saw strategic military training disguised as recreation. Every human entertainment seemed designed to prepare individuals for conflict and conquest. Tony Walsh decided to address their fears directly. "I can see you are worried about human capabilities," he said calmly. "Let me assure you, we are peaceful beings. We have many safeguards to prevent conflicts." He activated his own presentation. "Human security protocols are designed to protect innocent beings and maintain order. We have developed sophisticated systems for crowd control, riot suppression, and pacification of hostile populations. Tony meant to be reassuring, but his words had the opposite effect. He showed videos of police using non-lethal weapons, military, peacekeeping operations, and emergency response procedures. To Tony, these demonstrated human commitment to protecting others. To the aliens, they looked like conquest techniques. We have trained specialists for every type of security situation. Tony continued. Hostage rescue, urban warfare, counterterrorism, crowd dispersal, and area denial operations. Each term sent new waves of terror through the assembled aliens. Tony was describing military capabilities that exceeded anything in their recorded. History. Captain Jake Morrison noticed the growing panic and tried to calm the situation. I think there are some misunderstandings here, he said gently. Humans are explorers and problem solvers. We came here seeking friendship and knowledge. But surely, luminous Speaker Vel asked desperately, your people have peaceful members? Beings who do not participate in these competitive activities? Jake smiled, trying to be encouraging. Every human participates in some form of competition. It starts in childhood with games and sports, continues through school with academic contests, and extends into adult life through career advancement and social achievement. Amy tried to help by explaining human childhood development. Human children play games that teach important survival skills, she said. Tag teaches escape and pursuit. Hide and seek develops camouflage and tracking abilities. Team sports train group coordination and territorial control. The aliens listened in horror as Amy described how humans systematically trained their offspring for predatory behavior from the earliest age. Meanwhile, the emergency communications continued flashing between alien worlds. Reports described humans as apex predators who train from birth, territorial expansionists with advanced military capabilities, and beings who view conflict as entertainment. Panic began spreading through the galactic community. Some species started preparing evacuation plans, while others discussed whether the human sector of space should be quarantined. Back in the Crystal Spire, Scholar Prime Zyth presented his final analysis to the Emergency Council session. Based on all available evidence, he announced, we are dealing with a species that has evolved perfect predatory capabilities, maintains permanent military readiness, and views territorial expansion as natural behavior. What do they want from us? The Neptunian asked fearfully. Unknown, Zyth replied. But their casual discussion of enforcement and control suggests they may view our peaceful worlds as potential territories for expansion. The Council faced an impossible decision. They had invited humanity to join their peaceful alliance, but now believed they had welcomed the most dangerous predators in the galaxy to their most sacred gathering place. None of them realized that the humans were equally confused and concerned, wondering why their attempts at friendship were being met with increasing fear and suspicion. The misunderstanding had grown beyond simple cultural differences. It was becoming a crisis that could determine the future relationship between humanity and the entire galactic community. Dr. Amy Sullivan could not sleep. She paced around her quarters in the Crystal Spire, replaying every conversation from the past 3 days. Something was terribly wrong, but she could not figure out what. The aliens had gone from excited welcomes to barely concealed terror. Through her transparent walls, she could see alien representatives gathering in small groups, their body language showing distress. Soft chiming and musical voices carried through the night air, but the usual harmony was missing. Everything sounded urgent and fearful. A fragment of conversation caught her attention. 2 Zephyrian representatives were talking near her window, their wings trembling as they spoke. The invasion scouts have completed their assessment, one was saying to the other. They know all our defensive weaknesses now. Invasion scouts? Amy whispered to herself. A horrible realization began forming. In her mind, she activated her translator and listened more carefully to the alien conversations around the spire. The words she heard made her blood run cold. The aliens were talking about quarantine procedures, evacuation plans, and emergency defense protocols. They were discussing the humans as if they were an invading army. Amy grabbed her communication device and sent an urgent message to Scholar Prime Zyth. "I need to speak with you immediately. There has been a terrible misunderstanding." An hour later, Amy sat across from the Zephyrian scholar in a private chamber deep within the crystal spire. The room was softly lit and filled with gentle music, designed to promote calm discussion. "Scholar Prime Zyth," Amy began carefully, "I believe our species have been misunderstanding each other. Could you please tell me exactly what you think humans are?" The alien's compound eyes reflected the soft light as he considered her question. "Your people are clearly apex predators," he said finally. "Territorial expansionists with advanced military capabilities. You have survived multiple extinction events and developed perfect hunting adaptations." Amy felt her heart sink. "We are not military conquerors," she said gently. "We are explorers and scientists who came here seeking friendship." "But your physical structure," Zyth protested, pulling up holographic displays. "Forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. Dense bones for surviving impacts. Powerful cardiovascular systems for pursuit hunting. These are textbook predator adaptations." "Yes," Amy admitted, "but you are missing the context. May I explain human evolution from a scientific perspective?" Scholar Prime Zyth nodded slowly, his scholarly curiosity overcoming his fear. Amy activated her own display and showed images of ancient Earth. "Humans evolved on a world unlike any in your experience. Our planet went through ice ages, asteroid impacts, massive volcanic eruptions, and constant climate changes. Most life forms that could not adapt died out completely." She showed pictures of Earth's harsh environments: frozen tundra, scorching deserts, violent storms, earthquakes, and active volcanoes. "The traits that frighten you were necessary for survival. We developed these abilities not for conquest, but because our world demanded them." Zyth leaned forward with interest. "Your world was hostile to life?" "Extremely hostile," Amy confirmed. "Early humans had to compete with giant predators, survive in environments that changed rapidly, and find food in places where nothing wanted to be eaten. We became persistence hunters because it was the only way to survive." She pulled up images of early human societies. "But here is what you need to understand. The same traits that made us successful hunters also made us successful cooperators. We learned to work together, share resources, and protect each other from dangers." Amy showed him modern human society. Cities, hospitals, schools, art galleries, and scientific laboratories. Modern humans channel our competitive instincts into peaceful activities. Sports replace warfare. Academic competition replaces territorial disputes. We compete to help each other, not to harm each other. Scholar Prime Zyth studied the images carefully. "But your entertainment shows violence and conflict. Because we need outlets for instincts we no longer use for survival," Amy explained. "We watch action movies and play strategy games the way your people might enjoy puzzle solving. It satisfies psychological needs without causing real harm." Understanding began to dawn in the alien scholar's eyes. "You are saying that humans are domesticated predators?" Amy smiled at the description. "In a way, yes. We have all the survival instincts of a dangerous species, but we have learned to use them for building rather than destroying." "And your security capabilities?" Zyth asked. "We developed those because we understand danger," Amy replied. "A species that survived on a death world knows how to recognize and prevent threats. We do not use our abilities to attack others. We use them to protect ourselves and those we care about. The conversation continued for hours. Amy explained human psychology, sociology, and cultural development. She described how competition drove innovation, how survival instincts created strong family bonds, and how facing adversity taught humans to value peace. The traits that scare you are exactly what make us good allies, she concluded. We know how to survive disasters because we have lived through them. We know how to solve conflicts because we have experienced them. We know how to protect others because we understand what threatens them. Scholar Prime Zeif sat quietly for a long time, processing everything he had learned. Finally, he spoke. I believe I understand now. Humans are not predators seeking conquest. You are survivors who learn to create safety in an unsafe universe. Exactly, Amy said with relief. We came here hoping to learn from your peaceful wisdom while sharing our survival experience. The next morning, Scholar Prime Zeif called an emergency council session. This time, the mood was different. Instead of panic, there was curiosity and careful hope. Captain Jake Morrison and his team were invited to address the full council. Jake stood before the assembled alien representatives, knowing this might be their last chance to build a relationship. We understand that we have frightened you, Jake began. This was never our intention. Humans come from a harsh world, and we carry the marks of that experience. But we have learned to use our strength to protect rather than to threaten. He gestured to his team. Dr. Sullivan studies languages to build bridges between different peoples. Ben Rodriguez preserves cultural knowledge to prevent misunderstandings like this one. Commander Walsh trains in security procedures to keep innocent beings safe from harm. Amy stepped forward. We offer our perspective as beings who have faced every kind of disaster and survived. When peaceful methods work, we celebrate them. When dangers arise, we know how to face them. We do not seek to replace your harmony with our conflicts. We seek to protect your harmony with our experience. Ben opened his case of gifts again, but this time he explained them differently. This battle scene shows humans working together to overcome a threat that endangered everyone. This music expresses the emotions we feel when facing great challenges. These stories teach our children that courage and cooperation can defeat any obstacle. Tony stood and addressed their fears directly. You worry about our security capabilities. Good. You should be cautious about any species with our abilities. But ask yourselves this. Would you rather have such capabilities protecting you or threatening you from outside your alliance? The council members discussed among themselves in their various languages. The conversation was long and complex, but gradually the tone shifted from fear to thoughtful consideration. Finally, luminous speaker Vel addressed the humans. We begin to understand. You are not conquerors seeking to dominate us. You are guardians seeking to protect what is valuable. Scholar Prime Zeif added his analysis. A species that survived by cooperation rather than domination. Beings who turned competitive instincts into creative achievements. Warriors who chose to become protectors. The formal vote took place that evening. One by one, each alien species agreed to accept humanity as provisional members of the Galactic Council. The terms were unique. Humans would serve as the alliances, protection specialists, offering their survival expertise to help peaceful worlds face whatever dangers the universe might present. Admiral Lisa Carter received the final agreement aboard the Harmony. She smiled as she read the official language describing humanity as guardian species and protectors of galactic peace. The peace summit ended with a celebration that both sides could enjoy. The aliens performed harmony circles and light displays. The humans shared foods and music that did not involve predator references. Everyone was careful to avoid topics that might cause new misunderstandings. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Jake Morrison stood with Scholar Prime Zeif, watching the twin suns set over the crystal spire. "Will this partnership really work?" Jake asked. "I believe so," Scythe replied. "Your people understand dangers we cannot even imagine. Our people understand harmony you are still learning. Together, we might create something better than either could achieve alone." Jake smiled. "Humans protecting galactic peace. A year ago, I would have said that was impossible." "Perhaps," Scythe said thoughtfully, "the universe needs both kinds of wisdom. Those who know how to create peace and those who know how to preserve it." The stars shone down on both species as they began planning a future neither had expected, but both hoped would last for generations to come.